Hi everyone, good afternoon. This is Wei Jie from ACAT Private Limited. First of all, I would like to welcome and thank all of you for attending this very first webinar that we are conducting for Lumion. So in today's webinar, we'll be talking about Lumion 10 as well as the LiveSync capability for Revit. Before going to that, let me do a brief introduction of my company and also some of the informations on the product that we will be talking about today, which is Lumion. Okay, so ACAD has been in the CAD/CAM industry since year 2009, and we are mostly active in providing software solutions to the user as well as providing authorized training and certifications for most of the products that we carry. And then over at this page, you can actually have a better idea of what are the product range that we carry. So for 2D CAD tools, we have G-Star CAD, Autodesk software like AutoCAD LT, and CAD Profi. And then for 3D modeling tool, we have IntelliCAD, KD Max, SketchUp, and Autodesk products as well. For example, 3ds Max and Revit. And then for visualization and rendering tool, we have Lumion, which is the main product that we'll be talking about today, and then V-Ray as well. As for supporting software, we have Microsoft, example Office and projects, as well as Adobe software like Illustrator and Photoshop. Other than that, we have hardwares, example PCs, and then if you like to print out your 3D models, we have 3D printer that can help you to print out your 3D models pretty quickly. Okay, so now about a bit more information on Lumion. So Lumion is a professional graded rendering tool that is pretty popular among architects. Right, so it is able to actually come up with really stunning images within seconds, and on top of that, it is also able to create video clips together with animated scenes and 360 panorama images, which you can actually view it on your mobile devices and your tablets. Okay, so Lumion actually comes in two versions, Lumion 10 and Lumion 10 Pro. So the main difference between these two versions, right? The Lumion 10 actually comes with a lesser content library and also with limited rendering effects. As for licensing type, both are coming as a floating license, and they are also a perpetual license, which means that you do not really need to renew the license in order to use it. It's just that you'll be so-called stuck with the current version that you have purchased. Okay, so as for compatibility wise, Lumion is compatible with the software listed over here, example SketchUp, Vectorworks, Revit, Rhino, ArchiCAD, 3ds Max, and also some other tools as well. Okay, so without further ado, let's go to the demo section. So the focus for today's webinar will be on Lumion LiveSync for Revit. So LiveSync over here refers to live connection between Lumion and Revit. So this means that you could be building up your 3D models of your architectural stuff in Revit, and then at the same time you can also be setting up your models, you can change your texture, your materials, you can place objects on the around the scene, and then you can present your architectural model in a more polished, refined manner in Lumion. Okay, so let's look at the demo. Okay, so the version of the Revit software that I'm using is actually the latest, which is 2020. So let me first open up the model that I'll be using for this webinar. Okay. Alright, so this is the model that I'll be using for the webinar for the demonstration part. Okay, let me do some navigation of the camera view. Okay, so before we are able to sync the Revit model into Lumion, we need to install the plugin. Alright, so if you need the plugin to be installed, you have to click on this button called Autodesk App Store at the top right corner. Okay. Okay, once you click on that, okay, you take a moment to load. Okay, so it brings you to the App Store over here. So you just need to type in Lumion under the apps search bar and then press enter. And then this will be the plugin that you need to install. So you just need to click on that. And then on the right hand side, you have a download button. So just click on the download button and proceed to install it. Right. So once you have installed it, on the Revit software, right, at the top of your screen, the ribbon side, you'll be able to see Lumion. So once you click on Lumion, right, they will have a list of tools that you can use to link up your Revit model into Lumion. Okay, so before we link up the models, let's do some setup. Right, so I'll just click on the settings button. And then over here under the first option, right, you have insertion point. Right, so over here in Revit, we can actually define base point and survey point for our Revit project. So this option over here will allow us to actually define whether we want to use the base point or the survey point as the insertion point when we bring the Revit model into Lumion. So for this example, I'll be using base point. And the next option over here is called surface smoothing. So this option over here is to control how detailed is the surface when you bring the Revit model into Lumion. So the higher that you set to, the better surface finishing will be imported into Lumion. So of course, if you set it to high, right, it will actually take longer time for the Revit models to be imported into Lumion. Okay, and also it will also increase the time that it takes to render the model as well. Okay, so for my side, because I have a very powerful hardware, so I'll just set it to high, and then I will turn off the camera sync on start, and then I'll click OK here. So now I'm actually ready to sync up my model. So let me divide my screen into half so that I can see both software at the same time. Okay, so on the right side you can see my Revit software, and then on the left side is my Lumion software. Okay, so before I sync the model over, first thing I have to choose from one of the 6 preset template over here that is available in Lumion. So there's a plain template, forest environment, tropical, mountain range, suburban, and white. Okay, so we can actually use one of the preset template to import your model in. But in this webinar, I will be loading one of my template. Okay, so let me load in my template here. Okay, so I've loaded my template in. So to sync up my Revit models into Lumion, I just have to click on this button called Start LiveSync. Click on that, and then it probably take around a few seconds to load this model into my template. Okay, so now you can see the model has been dropped into my Lumion scene, and then maybe I'll just zoom in a bit. Okay, so you can see the model is actually dropped into the 000 coordinate of my Lumion scene. Okay, so I will need to adjust the position of my models. So I'll just select the models, and then I will type in the new coordinate position of my models. Okay, so once I'm done with that, you can see now my models has been the position of it is readjusted, and then it actually sits on the ground plane of my terrain. Okay, so next thing that I'll be showing you is how to actually synchronize the camera view for both products. So you can see the camera view on Revit and Lumion, it doesn't sync at this moment. So over here there is a start camera synchronization button, okay, that allow us to actually sync the two views together. So I'll just click on that, and then straight away you can see the camera view is synchronized. Okay, so I will just do some navigation. So example, when I zoom in and out, you can see in Lumion it follows as well. And then when I rotate the view, okay, okay, you can see it actually rotates together as well. Okay, so let me just focus on this portion of my model, and then over here you can see there are two windows. Okay, so the first thing that I'll be showing you is how to actually move the window in the Revit model, and then we'll see how quickly the changes will be reflected in the Lumion software. Right, so I'll just select this window and then just drag it and move it to the left a bit. So when I let go of the window, right, you can see the changes actually reflected immediately on my Lumion software. Okay, and then if I make a copy of this window and then put another copy to the right side, you can see the additional window will be created on the Lumion software as well. Okay, so next thing that I want to show you is editing the color probably of the wall over here. Okay, so I'll just select the wall, and then I'll go to edit type, and then I'll go to materials, and then under appearance I will just click on color, and then probably I will change the color of the wall to green color, and then OK. Alright, so now you can see straight away the color of the wall in the Lumion interface, right, has been changed to green immediately. Right, it's pretty instant. Alright, so next thing I'll be showing you is editing of the materials, like changing from one materials to another in Revit. So let's zoom into the building, and then probably we'll look at this flooring over here. Okay, so let's say I'll be changing the material of this flooring to some other materials. So I'll just go to edit type, and then I will click on materials. So the current materials that we are using at the moment is wood flooring. So I'll change it to wood cherry, and then OK to save it. So now you can see the flooring has been changed on both sides immediately, right? So now let me zoom out of the building, and then the next thing that I'll be showing you is let's say I try to put some objects from the Revit library, and then you can actually see the same object being created in Lumion as well. Okay, so I'll just go to insert and then go to load family. Probably I'll look at furniture, tables, and then this round table over here. Okay, so I'll just open that, and then to put in the table I will need to go to place a component. Alright, so now I'm ready to place the component. So you can take a look at the Lumion software when I place the table. So you can see the table is created almost instantly as well as I place the table. Okay, and then let's say now I'm going to delete away the 4 tables. Okay, once I press the delete key, it will be deleted on the Lumion interface immediately as well. Okay, so let's say now you are done with syncing the Revit models to the Lumion software. You can actually now turn off the synchronization by clicking on the stop button over here. Right, so now the synchronization has been turned off. And now let's do some changes to this Revit model. Okay, so let's say for example I'm changing the materials for this wall, this platform. So I'll just go to edit type, and then I'll click on materials, and then probably I'll be looking at the material called masonry tile, right? Click on OK. Okay, so you can see from the Revit software, the materials has been changed, but then the materials on the Lumion side is still unchanged because we have already turned off the synchronization between the two software, right? So before synchronizing them, I will change the settings. So I'll turn on this option called camera sync on start, which means that when I start the synchronization between the two software, the camera will synchronize as well. So I'll just click on OK, and then I will start the LiveSync. Okay, so straight away you can see the materials has been changed in Lumion, and then you can see the camera view has been synchronized as well. Okay, so now I will turn off the LiveSync. I will remove so-called minimize the Revit software, and then now we will focus solely on the Lumion software for the rest of the webinar. Right, so now we have already bring in the Revit model that is so-called we need to render this model in Lumion. But then although the Revit texture and the materials looks okay, but it can look better if you replace the Revit materials with the Lumion materials, because Lumion actually comes with a lot of materials, in fact more than 1200, right? So let's look at how to actually change the materials. Okay, first thing, I'll be replacing the materials for the wall, the green color wall over here. Okay, so in order to change the materials, you have to click on this materials button to actually activate the material editor mode. So after you go into that mode, you can select the wall. Okay, so once you select the wall, you can see Lumion actually detect this surface is using imported materials from Revit. Okay, so now our part is to actually replace the imported material with the materials in Revit. So I'll just go to outdoor, go to concrete, okay, and then probably I will be using this material called poly concrete 32 2K, right? So I'll just double click on that, and then you can see the materials has been replaced. And then on top of that, we can do some customization. For example, the colorization of the surface, the glossiness, reflectivity of the surface, relief, which is to actually make the surface of the wall a bit more wrinkled. Okay, and then there's a displacement bar over here that can actually increase. Okay, let me zoom in a bit more. Okay, so when I play with this displacement bar, right, it can actually increase and decrease the depth informations on the surface of the materials. Okay, and then for this map scale is to actually control the scale factor of the patterns on the wall. Okay, so once you're okay with the appearance, you can save the changes. Okay, so now we have replaced the Revit materials with Lumion materials. So another thing that I want to show you is let's say user want to actually use materials that is actually downloaded from some other third-party vendor, or they have actually created their own materials. They can also use that for this Revit model, right? So I will just select the surface again of the wall, and then go back to the material library, click on new, and then select standard. Right, so once you go to the standard materials over here, you can actually choose your color map and your normal map. Right, so I will just click on choose color map and then select my material. Okay, so you can see now the material has been replaced with the materials that you have selected. And then of course we can also give a more wrinkled effect on the surface of the wall by choosing this normal map. Okay, so now there is more details on the surface of the materials, and then after that I will reduce the glossiness of the wall and the reflectivity, and then after that I will save the changes. Okay, so now I'm done with editing the materials for the wall. So next thing I'll be showing you is how to actually edit the grass material. So you can see this grass material actually comes from the Revit software, and then it looks a bit flat at the moment. Okay, so in fact Lumion comes with a pretty good 3D grass that you can actually use to beautify your environment. Okay, so you can click on materials, select the grass patch, and then go back to the material library, and then go to 3D grass, and then probably I'll be using this circular grass 03. Okay, so once I double click on that, you can see now it comes with a pretty nice looking 3D grass on the grass patch, right? So we can do some customization like colorization of the grass. Okay, and then we can also increase and decrease the gravity force, the bending force, the grass size, okay, the grass length, okay, and then the map scale of it, the rotation of the grass, curliness, and the roughness of the grass. Okay, so once you are happy with the appearance of the 3D grass, you can then save the changes. Okay, and then over here there is another patch of grass that is still using the Revit materials. So I will select this patch of grass that I've already replaced, and then I will copy the material, go to this patch of grass over here, go to standard, and then paste the material over. Okay, and then save the changes. So now the grass looks pretty good to me now. Okay, so that's about it for editing of the materials. The next portion of the demo, I'll be showing you how to actually place objects into the Lumion scene. Because if you look at the scene around the model, right, it looks a bit empty at the moment. Okay, so we'll place object to actually populate the scene, right? So the first thing I'll be actually placing a nature object, which is a tree, because in Lumion 10 it actually comes with pretty fine detail nature object that look stunning, especially if you use it in the foreground of your models. Okay, so I'll just click on fine detail nature object, and then probably I'll be choosing chestnut 001, and then I'll put it somewhere over here. Okay, and then I will zoom in a bit so that you can have a look at how stunning is the tree. So you can see the leaves on the tree is actually blowing according to the direction of the wind, and looks really realistic as well. Okay, so next thing I'll be actually putting in some character. So most of the character that is inside the Lumion library is animated, which means that they are actually either walking, standing, or they are sitting, right? So they are actually simulating some sort of a movement in it, right? So I will look at this character called man Asian 004 walk. So I'll just put this character over here. Probably I'll rotate the character a bit, and then I'll put it here. Okay, so this is the character that I've placed in. Okay, next I'll be actually putting some outdoor furniture. So for example, I'll be putting in a bench somewhere on the grass patch over here. So I'll just click on outdoor, then click on bench 008, and then I'll put a bench over here. And then to end it off, I will place another character. This time a woman actually sitting on the bench over here. Okay, so this is how we actually start to place objects to actually fill up the whole scene. But then at this moment, the scene is still quite empty. So the good thing about Lumion, right, we can actually share the load with different members within the team. So one member can be actually loading in the models and then doing the texturing and the changing of the materials. And then the other member can be busy doing some placing of the objects to actually fill up the whole scene. Okay, so beforehand, I've already created the materials that I want to use for this Revit model. So over here, I will just click on the materials button, select one of the surface, and then on the top right corner you will be able to find a button called load material set. Right, so I'll just load the material set that I've created beforehand. So this is the file, so I'll just open that. Okay, once I open that, they will be able to detect what are the materials that I have configured, and then these are the materials that will be replaced with the current materials. So I'll just click on the override materials button. Okay, and then you can see all the materials has been replaced, including the flooring, and then the walls and the glass panels and the grills as well. Alright, so the next thing that I'll be doing is I will be merging two different files together, because I have created a file whereby I've placed a lot of objects, example trees, in that file to actually fill up the environment, the whole scene. So I'll merge the two projects together. So to merge it, you can go to this file option, go to load, and then merge project. Okay, and then I'll select this file, and then over here you can choose what are the things that you want to merge together between the two selected files. So I will select the nature lightings, model libraries, and imported models, and then I'll just click on the merge selected button. Okay, so now I've already merged the two files together, and then if you look around the scene, it looks better with a lot of trees, and then you have some lampposts, and then you have some bushes, flowers, and all those things around the scene. And then you also see some furnitures inside the buildings as well. Okay, so now the next step, after you have already filled up the scenes with the objects that you want, you can now do the rendering of the images by clicking on this photo button at the bottom right. Okay, so before we render the model, first thing we have to find a correct angle for the image. So let me do some editing of the camera view. Okay, and then I will play with this focal length to zoom in a bit to my unit. Okay, so rotate a bit more. Maybe I'll go down a bit. Okay, so let's say this view is it looks okay to me. So I'll just go to one of the empty slot at the bottom, and then I'll store the camera. Okay, so it will actually get a snapshot of the current view that I have configured. Then the next step, you have to start adding in effects to actually make the render outcome to be a bit better. Okay, so you can go to add effects, and then over here we have a few categories, like for example sun effects, to control the sun direction and the sun brightness and so on and so forth. And then we have weather effects. We can make it a rainy day, or maybe it's a snowing at the outside of the building, right? So we can also set the sky effects, like for example whether it's cloudy and the amount of clouds on the sky. And then we have object effects as well, camera effects, animations that's meant more for doing your movie clips, and then some other effects over here as well. Okay, so let's say sometimes you do not have a lot of time to actually configure the effects. You can actually go up to this button called custom style, whereby there's some preset effects that you can immediately load into your Lumion software. So let's choose this style called realistic, and then it will actually load in a bunch of effects on the left hand side. And then you can see now your screen over here, it gives you a preview of how it will looks like if you actually render this image based on the effects that you have loaded. Okay, so let's go straight to render, and then select this resolution, and then probably I will save it under day render A, and then save the image. Okay, so probably this rendering will take around 20 seconds, maybe less than that. Okay, so you can see as the rendering is processing, you can see the changes in the images as well. Then you can see some nice shadows on the surface of the platform. But then if you look closely at the glass panel, right, you can't really find reflection on it. Okay, so this is just a very quick rendering that is using some custom style that we just load in. So let's say if I want the reflection to be shown on the glass panel, we have to do some customization of the effects. So in fact, beforehand, I've already created a bunch of effects that is meant for day rendering. So over here, I will just remove away all the effects, and then I will load in my own effects over here that is for day rendering. Open it, and then you can see now the preview, it actually shows you a different outcome as compared to the previous one, because I have used a different effects, in fact a better effects as compared to just now. Right, so I'll just proceed to render this image, and then I'll save it under day render B. Okay, so this time round the rendering will take a bit more time, because I've actually created a few more effects on top of the previous one. Okay, so you can take a look at the glass panel. You can see a reflection appearing on it. Okay, so it's almost done. Okay, another few seconds more. Okay, so I'll just go to the open folder, and then you can have a look at this image. Okay, so you can actually find some reflection appearing on the glass panel, which you don't find it in the previous image, right? So if you want the render output to be a bit better, you need to spend a bit more time in configuring your effects, which is quite important. All right, so I'm done with this portion of the demo, which is rendering a image. So the next example that I'll be showing you is how to create a video clip. So I'll just go to the movie button over here to go into the movie mode, and then click on record. And then over here I need to capture a few snapshot, okay, that I'll be using for my video clip later. So maybe the first shot will be somewhere over here. So I'll just click on this button called add camera keyframe, and then I'll go to somewhere in front of the building, and then over here I will take another keyframe, and then after that I will zoom into the building. Okay, so probably somewhere over here I will create another keyframe. Okay, so over here I've created 3 keyframes, and then the time taken for these 3 keyframes to be loaded will take around 9.44 seconds. So I can play the video clip, and then you can have a look at how the whole movie will run. Okay, so you can see at the right hand side corner there is actually a character that is animating the walking movement. Okay, so the next example that I'll be showing you is how to actually make this person actually walking around the Revit model. Right, so I'll just click on the add effects button, and then I'll go to animation, and then choose advanced move. Click on the edit button, right, and then I need to change my camera view a bit. Okay, so the first thing I need to define the position of this character when time is 0 second. So I will click on the move object button, and then I'll move the character here. Okay, so now I define this is actually the starting position of my character, and then I'll move the time bar over here to somewhere around 1.5 second, and then I will proceed to move this character out until somewhere over here. So this character will take around 1.5 seconds to move from the original location to his current location, right? And then next time round I will move the time bar to around like maybe 6.5 seconds, and then I'll move the character to somewhere at the edge of the staircase. Okay, and then I'll finish off by bringing the time all the way to the end, and then I will move the character down the staircase onto the grass patch. After that I will save the changes. Okay, so now let's play the movie again. So you can see the character is now actually walking around your scene, down the staircase and then onto the grass patch. Okay, so once you're ready, you can actually render this movie. So you can click on this render movie render clip button on top of your keyframe, and then you can define the output quality and then the number of frames per second as well. Okay, so because this render part will actually take a bit more time for this movie clip, so beforehand I've already created a movie for this, so I'll just play it and then you can have a look. Okay, so this is the movie that I've created beforehand. Okay, so this is the second part that I'll be showing you is how to create video clips. And then the next part, which is the last part, is I will be showing you how to actually create 360 panoramic images of your scene. Okay, so I'll just go to this mode here. And then first thing, we have to define the camera view of your panoramic images. So let's say this is the first viewpoint of my image. So I'll just click on the Store Panorama button to store the viewpoint. And then probably I'll go down somewhere down the road. Okay, so probably somewhere over here, I will create another viewpoint. I'll go to one of the empty slot and then store the panorama image. Okay, so once I'm done with creating the two images over here, the two viewpoints, I can click on this render button. And then over here, we can actually control the output quality as well. Okay, so I will set the output quality to 3-star, and then I will email this image to my own email. And then for the title, I will just type in Revit model LiveSync, and then I will upload to my Lumion. So what it does now is that because we have now created two viewpoints for our panoramic images, so they will proceed to render the first viewpoint, and then subsequently they will go to the second viewpoint, and then they will capture the scene around that viewpoint. And then once it's done, this image will be uploaded to the Lumion cloud, and then they will actually open it up in the Lumion online viewer, whereby you can actually view the scene using their viewer. Okay, so it's almost done for the first image. So probably another minute or so. So let's wait. Okay, so they are done with the rendering of the first viewpoint. So now they are actually going to the second viewpoint, and then they will actually render the scene around that point. Okay, almost there. Another maybe 10 seconds. Alright, so it's done. So now they will actually upload the image to the cloud. Okay, so it's done. So I'll just click on this view button, and then they will load the image into the online viewer, and then I'll go to full screen. Right, so now you can actually view your scene around that viewpoint. Okay, and then if you want to go to the second viewpoint, you have to click on the button at the bottom right corner that looks something like eye, and then over here you have a second viewpoint, so click on that, and then now you should be able to navigate your scene around that second viewpoint. Okay, so that's it for my demonstration.